Alright, so welcome to a pulled punches tutorial here. I'm Brian. I'm going to go ahead and walk you guys through this one, and if you're anything like me, you have a ton of Sisters of Battle that have flamers. If you don't play Sisters of Battle, you can use this tutorial with the metal models, but honestly, flamers were one of the things that they made plastic first. So most people have plastic flamers and don't have metal flamers like a Sisters of Battles player. I have plenty of other armies, and I've never had to go through this with any other one. But I've done 4 of them so far, and so far they look pretty good. The only thing they're missing is the targeting reticle, which I'm going to be probably adding with green stuff later when I clean up down here and finish off the emblem. But they look pretty good. They look pretty legit. The only difference is on the side here, well, other than targeting reticle, but on the side here, it doesn't have that little canister sideways. Now, it has it vertically here, but I don't mind that as much. It's mainly a personal preference, and I went ahead and did it this way. So I could snip that off and add one, but it looks okay in my opinion, and it's distinctive enough from the flamer that it gets the point across that within 6 inches she's pure death. You will need a metal or plastic Melta. Now, these are pretty easy to come by on the GW website, Games Workshop website. I got one right here. It comes in a pack of 5 for $8 USD, or $8 US. It's honestly got a hand here. It's ready for a Space Marine. Obviously, it's not going to work out right there. So what we'll be doing is just removing this bottom coil and this top head here. After we clean it up, of course, I recommend cleaning this up and drilling the rifling hole and the barrel in there before you attach the model, because it is a pain enough as it is to drill on one side, let alone on 2. You won't need to pin these, the coil. It has a rough enough edge after you're done cutting it, and after you're done, well, mauling the flamer tank off of this, that you won't need to, you really won't need to pin it. The scoring is more than enough to hold it in place, as long as you're not like yanking on it or anything. So we'll go ahead and list the materials and let you get started. First step here, well, this is my first step. I recommend just doing it however you feel comfortable, but after doing 4 of these things, this is the way that works for me. I come in here and take the top off, and I grab it right there, right below the edge. So I just snip once there, and I flipped it over, and then caught it on the back side and just popped it off. It really was fairly clean, but it leaves the scope, which is kind of a nice touch when you're doing that. And then just clean it up a tad. Kind of want it to be flat on top, just make it look good, because if you add the sight later, it'll look like there's an unobstructed view to firing the Melta, which is nice. The next thing I do is I actually go to the nozzle for where the flamer is, and since it's a flush cut, I'm not going to risk doing anything over here. I'm going to put my finger over on this side so it doesn't just shoot off everywhere in every which direction, and you actually have a fairly nice, clean, flat cut here. I'm going to straighten it out just a bit. There we go. And down on the bottom of the flamers, you'll have this little bit, this small itty bitty bit right below where the nozzle of the Melta would rest, but it's not on the Melta, so I go ahead and snap that off. It's just all the little extra bits you can do to make it look like a Melta. I'll just it'll just make it look very clean, very nice, very crisp. Tell you what, this army is by far the labor of love over my Necrons, my Space Marines, my Demons even, Grey Knights. These are the ones that take the most work. So, and they're definitely my favorite army, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. So let's go ahead and, this is the rougher part, the canister. The way I like to approach this is to grab it at a slight angle right there, and since these are pretty good snips, I can grab it at that angle, and you want to stay away from the leg or resting or putting pressure on the rest of the model, because these models have a lot of detail for them being an older GW model. But crimp it once, that way you know exactly what you've got. Put your thumb here so it doesn't shoot back and hit you in the face, and then there you go. You got the first bit, and I recommend taking this off in small chunks because it can get unwieldy and it can shoot off at you. I wear glasses, so I don't have to worry about them hitting my eyes so much, but other people do. So if you saw that, I just did that rotation motion there. Just slowly work at this tank. If you live near Denton, Texas, which I actually do, save your metal, because during ReaperCon you can go and trade in all of the metal that you've clipped off and snipped off and all that stuff. They have a exchange program for all the pewter that you have that are extra bits and whatnot. I have probably 5 pounds of the stuff that I turned in, and I got dragons and D&D minis and things like that that people, you know, generally like. I tend to trade those for more 40K models, actually, so that works out. The emblem on the knee down here is very susceptible to damage from this. There is so much torque and pressure coming off of these when you're twisting and turning. Right, so we're done with this. We're going to go ahead and set that down, set it over here off to the side. I'm going to clean this off just a small bit here. Now we got our Melta. The order in which you do this is not really that important. So first you want to go ahead and pop this off and flatten it out some. If you want to use an emery pad, you're more than welcome to. It works out fairly well. But this is what you do. First, I snip off the hand. Okay, pretty much one cut will do it, and then I just pull it off. Okay. Now, this is important because this is the part where it will deform it if you don't do it right. Okay, and I luckily didn't have to go through any of these to learn this. I just have worked with metal a long time. So what you do is you snip back behind it. You use the non-flat side, you use the cupped side, you snip behind it, okay, about where the canister, about halfway past the canister. You snip behind it like that, okay, and then go in a little bit deeper and it'll start taking off this rear chunk. Now go ahead and shore this up so you have a good deep gash here to get into this, and then you'll want to snip again, and you're removing the majority of the Melta gun from the tubing. Okay, and then this is where you put you have your underside and your top here. You put it in with the tubing. Now you will bend the tubing doing this, but that's okay. The tubing is going to be bent back into shape to be placed underneath the former flamer. So there you go. Pops that off. Okay. Now that this tubing is nearly free, but it's straighter, I like to come in here and do the reverse. Okay, and just grab the flesh part. Now, you don't need to worry about the barrel leading to the nozzle, saving it or anything, because that's why we snipped in front of the nozzle on the flamer, so we'd leave that. So we're going to go ahead and just make a clean cut. Nope, my Melta goes flying. It's okay, it didn't go far. That's normally why I hold it, but I failed to. And now I'll set that off to the side. And you have this chunk left. I just cut the remainder of this. I cut wide again. Oops, wrong side. Cut wide so I don't damage the actual tubing. And see, I almost got there, but luckily I was cutting wide, so it didn't get to the tubing. Now I can shore that up a bit. And there we go. I got good, clean, flush piece to connect to the flamer. Okay, and this one I'm going to actually have to trim down to get there. There's so much material for this. Oops, there we go. Alright, so there we go. I have good clean cuts. I even have rivets on here still remaining. So we're going to set that to the side. Now I told you guys to drill the hole for this earlier, and obviously I did not. And I'm going to show you how difficult it is to do this, because that's why I told you earlier, but I have been doing them all beforehand. This is what happens. You have to... I did the first one like this, and it was terrible, but I'll show you my misdeeds. You have to pinch very hard, and then do a small guiding hole, which is terrible to start on a smooth surface. Okay, small guiding hole. And then slowly, so it doesn't walk all over you. There it goes. Right there. Yep, and it already started to walk, so I'm going to have to ease back and do this at a slight angle to open it back up again. This is why it's horrible to do this when it's not on the gun already. My fingers are already starting to get raw because I'm pinching so hard. So, anyway, barrel is there now. So what I'll do is I'll just go around in a small circle. I didn't have to do that before I made the chip on here, but the chip makes the bevel nicer. So then I just put this in here and do a small couple twists. And now it looks, when you prime this up, it'll look like it's used bronze when you paint it bronze. And then give it a small coat of Devlin mud. It'll make it look very nice, very antiqued or used, which you kind of want that used feeling on a Melta. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and do the guide hole for the pinning. Now this one, being terrible, is unavoidable. mainly because it's on the back and you wouldn't have access to it otherwise. So just be easy on it. You can break bits doing this very easily. In fact, I probably have too much bit showing. The torque is insane if you don't back off of this thing a little bit here and there. So just make sure you clear it and give the metal some chance to recover. Alright, there we go. And let's see, that's about that far on a paper clip, so that'll work. That's exactly what you need. I did get it fairly in the center there, so that means I can hold this one and do it fairly in the center, and it'll turn out okay. We can always bend the paper clip one direction or another to realign the nozzle if we need to. It's fairly nice and forgiving in that way. Alright. Get some bits stuck in there. It's kind of aggravating. There we go. Alright, got a good clean hole there. Now, I'm not going to attach this until the end because this being on there solid is actually the more unnerving part than the tubing is. The tubing's just hard to get aligned properly. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and pin this thing. Since this might bang around in my bag a little bit, I'm going to crimp this just a tad and give it some teeth going down the line here. It just gives it some texture on the paper clip. Just don't do it too hard, you just want to get it some texture, that's all. So no cutting through it, just texture. And then I'm going to put a little dot of glue right there. And then just pop that in right there, and I'm going to clip long. That way I make sure I get enough later, because we'll dry fit it and go from there. Now I keep some tissue paper or toilet paper or something around nearby, so the excess glue you can just mop up. It'll just soak right up. It's a very nice little technique. Just don't use the same stuff for your paint brushes. You don't want any of those chemicals on there. Paper clip's a little off-center, but that won't matter until we put the thing on, and then that way we can adjust it. So it's probably set by now for the most part, as much as it needs to be. Make sure that you put the correct side on. The side that we drilled into and then beveled is the side that fires. So go ahead and slip this on. Okay, it needs to be cut about that much. So, and make sure you put your finger or something or a piece of cloth over what you're just snipping, and because you don't want it flying off at you. Alright, see, it's not flush up there, and it definitely should be, so we're going to snip one little sliver off of this thing. There we go. There. Very flush. Very neat. So the dry fit's done. Let's go ahead and just pop a little bit more on there. Don't get too crazy with it, just enough to probably coat that paper clip. And there we go. Let me spin around. I think it's better looking on this side. There we go. Alright, and then you take the tissue. Clean it up a bit more, anything that's leaked over. And that's good. Alright, so I'm going to set that down there. Now, like I said, I've already done a few of these, so I'm going to go ahead and just do an alignment match to make sure I got it very close. Alright, so it actually is already pretty close. So I won't have to do too much bending, but I'll do a dry fit here too. We're going to put it right behind the hand, or I guess in front of the hand on the gun side, and then this one will interlock right here, right down in here. Now if you want, you can score it and drill just a little bit in here. The other side, the reverse side, the tubing side, is definitely the side that has enough of a score to it. So this one, I don't know if it's casting or if it was just eyeballing error, but this one needs to be bent just a tad, so I'm going to put it on the table and just barely tap it, and that'll be perfect. So we're going to actually apply the glue to the gun and not the tubing, because the tubing will get glue everywhere if you do that. That was a mistake number one for me. So I had fingers glued to little bits of metal all over the place. And actually that popped into place rather well, but it is bent that way towards the body, and so I'm going to use a little paper clip for that same paper clip, the remainder of it, I used it to pull it away some, just short up a bit. If you can ever help it, you want stuff out away to give it depth. So what I'm going to do is pop it with just a little bit of glue here and here, and then come back with this and soak up the outside so it won't get into the detail. And see, the beautiful thing about this is I can make it to a point and pull it out of the detail. I just want a small gloss of glue, and it'll hold pretty well. And this is dry now. So there it is. It's done. I'm going to probably snip the tag off here and mount her onto a base, and it'll be very nice. Got a Melta gun. This will make 5 because I used the whole pack, and I had one left over, so that's my Dominion squad, or all 3 squads. Got 2 Meltas in each. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like to see further things or whatnot, let me know. What you want? Come on.